Welcome, everybody, to the special meeting of the Board of Health. Please let the record reflect that those present are Commissioners CUNY, Waldrop, and Kearns. Councilmember Cathcart is absent today. He sends his regrets. For just a reminder, your agenda packets are in the binders. You can take the paperwork home with you, but please leave the binders themselves. And only 6 microphones on at one time should not be an issue today. Today, the purpose of this meeting is to review applicants for appointment to the SRHD Board of Health. We received a number for each of the 3 categories, those being the consumer, the stakeholder, and the provider categories. I think we can move on to discussion on those. I would like to ask my 2 seatmates if you have a preferred manner to proceed here. Do we want to go down the list? Do we want to, I assume we have all reviewed these ahead of time. Do you just want to state sort of folks you would like to see interviewed for each category? I'm open to however you want to proceed. And just for your knowledge too, Councilmember Cathcart's office forwarded, it looks like they forwarded 2 individuals for each category that he would like to be interviewed in each of those categories. It's more his top picks. He's not opposed to anybody else being interviewed in each of those, but he did send 2 for each of the categories that he sort of as his favorites for each of those categories.
So one question is how many do we anticipate interviewing for each category? I mean, I think last time it was 3 per category. We did as the commissioners because it wasn't.
I thought it was more than 3 in some of them, not all of them. I thought the provider one was a pretty long. I could be remembering that wrong.
There's not a certain number. We'll just see how many who kind of rises to the top to see. Yeah. I definitely have in my categories kind of at least 2 people identified in each of the categories.
Okay.
Sometimes one has 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, however you want to do it. I'm happy to kind of go from that perspective.
I made a list and I did 3 for each category as well. But I held it at 3, but I'm not opposed to if we do 4 in one. I did 3.
I think I had different numbers. I think I had more for the providers because there was a lot of good applicants there.
Yeah.
Less for some of the other categories.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, do we want to list out? And I can kind of keep a cumulative list, and we can see.
So we can start with community.
We can kind of tally
stakeholder.
and see how we go. So yeah, let's start with. So I can either do it or somebody else. I mean. Oh, you can do it? Okay. 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 We'll let Michelle go for that. Okay.
I'm happy to go.
Okay.
First, so on community stakeholder, for sure, and some of the people are multiple. So I was looking at that, and as I put my categories together. So for the community stakeholder, I had Han and Duranona as kind of my top 2.
I had those as well as 2 in that category. I'm seeing if I had anybody else I wrote down in the stakeholder. Anyway, those were my top 2 as well, but I'm open to others.
I had 3 in mine, and actually it looks like Councilmember Cathcart had the same 3. So Duranona, Han, and Knowles. And those are the 3 that I had were Han, Duranona, and Knowles. So doesn't look like we have any disagreements there. Okay. All right. So that's for stakeholder. Do we want to jump to consumer?
Sure.
Okay. Consumer, I'll go first this time. Consumer, I had Kienholz, Gross or Gross, I don't know the pronunciation, and then Zymance. Councilmember Cathcart had Kienholz and Gross. He just did 2 on that one.
I had Keenholz, McCartney, and how do you pronounce the last name with the Z?
Oh, I think it's Zymance?
Zymance.
That's my best guess. Or Zmance?
Those were the 3 that I had.
Those were my 3 as well. I would be open to interviewing Mr. Gross or Gross. He didn't give a lot of explanation about why he was interested in serving, but being a psychiatric nurse was interesting, but I thought the other applications were a little bit more detailed as to why they were interested in serving, and understanding of the board of the health district's duties.
Yeah, I thought just, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, maybe this is more a question for legal with the individual. Was he the RN? Yeah, so is that too closely related to being the provider category? Would we run afoul of it with John Gross, because it does say occupation RN, but then he does lay out why he fits the consumer category. So is there an issue there?
I don't think there's an issue, because you can apply for more than one category.
Okay, all right. Okay, so can you read off what the tallies were for that one?
For the
Consumer.
consumer, we had Michael's.
Or just the totals for each applicant there.
Oh,
So,
so
like, I think-
Michael's had 4.
Okay,
McCartney had 2.
okay,
Zynance had 2. Rose had 2.
okay.
You said Catherine had 2.
Correct. So thoughts, do we want to interview 4 people, or do we want to try to narrow the list down to 3? What do you think?
Did we end up with 2 or 3 for the other
3.
category?
3 on the other.
I mean, I'm open to interviewing 4. Just wanted to make sure we have the appropriate amount of time set aside, so.
I'm open to, yeah, just depending on our timing, if we need to reduce it by 1. So maybe let's see, okay, so we've got 4 there, we've got 3 in the community stakeholder. Let's look at the health providers and then determine how many we have there, and then determine if we need to whittle some down.
Okay.
Yes. Commissioner Kearns?
Yeah.
Alicia, Dr. Thompson had her hand up.
Oh,
so-
I'm sorry, I didn't see you there.
And so I was just going to mention and remind everyone that on the 25th, there's going to be an hour between the interviews and the board meeting. And so it's going to be really tight. And so you have about 1 hour for each section. So just a reminder of how this agenda looks. And the interviews are remote, but the board meeting will be in person. So just wanted to have you keep that in mind.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll come back and see if we need to narrow down that list. So let's move on to the provider list. I'll go first. The 3 that were sort of my top were Richards, Martin, and Pickering. And Councilmember Cathcart. For provider, his were Martin and Richards.
So for me, I actually have 4. So I have Martin, Richards, like Blackowski, May, and Pickering. And a question on Pickering. So Pickering's a professor. So Michelle, I just want to make sure that she met the criteria. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, no, I also was wondering, she has a PhD in education, and, I mean, she's very, has lots of research and courses in public health that she's taught, and obviously has a lot of expertise, but that was my question, is whether or not she's considered a provider of healthcare under the statute. But she was one of my picks if we think, to interview, because she seems to have a lot of great background and has served on the YWCA board and other, important organizations that work towards health in the community. So, but I had Blackowski, May, Melissa Martin, the RN, and Pickering and Landsberger. I mean, she's taught epidemiology at Whitworth. I mean, her PhD is in education, health, and wellness. So I don't know if that's not not quite maybe meeting the statute, but she would be an interesting person to have on the board with all of her background.
Just a second, Josh. On the application itself, it does say includes medical. I can say the epidemiologists, community health workers, those with experience in environmental public health, holders of master's degree. I mean, so I wonder if she meets the criteria. Like, for some reason, if we look at how we stated it.
But if that's not the same as what the law is.
Right, no.
So, I mean, that's,
So it sounds like she would meet the criteria then. Okay. Okay.
So it's PhD in education / health and wellness.
Which she does have.
Master, yeah, well, no, that's what I'm reading from her. But does that fit? So her master's is in physical education, PhD is in education / health and wellness. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
I was just
go for
wondering,
it.
sorry, that first part that you read, Michelle, does it require that someone be licensed? I didn't quite catch that other part of the statute.
It doesn't say that specifically. Medical ethicists, epidemiologists, experienced in environmental public health, registered sanitarian, community health workers, holders of a master's degree or higher in public health and equivalent, employees of the hospital, and then there's continuing providers who hold an active provider license.
Oh, that was what they were referring to, that whether it doesn't matter if they're active or if they are retired, it would still qualify, okay.
That's too bad, because she tenured professor and chair public health at Gonzaga, so, and professor of community health at Whitworth, but,
So I would say she meets the criteria.
do you think?
Yeah, because I
Okay.
think what I'm hearing is, it says public health, comma, healthcare facilities or provider representative. Partly you were defining what, last part, it defines what a provider is, versus the first part, I think it talks about public health, where as long as they have a holders of master's degree or higher in public health with,
You're reading from
yeah, it's a,
the statutes.
so I think it would meet the criteria.
Okay. Yeah, she's one of my three, so I would like her on the list of interviews. Is this something that prior to Thursday, you think maybe you could do a little deeper dive on that?
I can't, because I don't think there's gonna be much out there for the statute.
All right.
Just
Okay.
hasn't been-
Okay. Okay. Okay, so can you read the tallies then for?
I will try,
Okay.
yes. So it looks like Richard had 3. Martin had 4. Pickering had 1, I think,
No, she had,
or 2.
I think she had 3. You had Pickering on yours, right?
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
4 totals, so
Oh,
she
okay,
was,
so-
she was my 4th one.
Okay, that's where I missed it, sorry.
Pickering had 3.
And then Landsberger had 1, and Lykowski May had 2.
Okay. So I think we should probably do 4 in that category. Those that got 3 and 2. So that would be Richards, Martin, Pickering, and Bukowski May. So that would bring us to 4 in that category. Do we want to try to narrow down the consumer list just so we're not pushed for time? Let me go back up.
My only concern with Mr. Gross was that it just,
Can you tell me who your picks were again? in that
mine
category?
were McCartney, Keinholz, and Zemont. Those were the 3 that you had, right?
Yeah, those are the same 3 I
My
had.
concern was just that he didn't, he thought of SRHD as providing direct healthcare services and clinics. Now, we do have our opioid treatment clinic, but he just, the way he described it, I think it maybe wasn't a full understanding of what the health district's duty was, maybe thinking more of providing direct health care to low-income individuals. So that was my concern, was just compared to some of the other applications, the other folks seem to have a greater understanding of the breadth of work of the health district. So that was why I'd prefer interviewing the other three.
I'll remove him from my list then, and then that'll leave us with Keenholz, Zymance, and did you say McCartney? Okay, so yeah, we'll have those be our three for consumer.
That makes it a little more reasonable.
So it'll be 3, 3, and 4.
Depending on how long we're gonna go and how many questions, right?
Yeah, that's
But-
next.
So then my question would be, you know, up in the community stakeholders, I mean, because we don't have to do 3, that
Okay.
I think we all had Han and Duranona, is that correct?
Yes, everyone had Han and Duranona, and then Commissioner Kearns and Councilman Cathcart also had Knowles.
So do we want to strike Knowles? Just to make sure that as we have 3 hours total, we have enough time for, since we have extra.
Yeah. Look back through. I'm trying to remember. I thought. Yeah, I'll support that.
So that'll provide 3 per hour to make sure we have enough time to adequately do the interviews.
Yeah.
I know, it's hard. There's a
know.
lot of, I'm really appreciative that so many people stepped up to
Yeah.
apply, because everyone here has had something to offer, their own experience, their businesses in healthcare, education, very interesting, diverse group of people. So just wanted to say thanks to everyone who did take the effort to apply, because it was tough to cut down the list, as you can see.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard decisions that we have to make, but yeah, and
So I'm just going to run through these, just how I was taking notes. So stakeholder will interview Duranona and Han. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Consumer will be Keenholz, Zymance, and McCartney. Correct. And then provider will be Richards, Martin, Pickering, and Blakowski-May.
Correct.
Okay. All right. We all good with that? Okay. This is queued up, listed as an action item. So we will need a motion to set those as the interviewees.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I would motion that we interview the individuals just stated by Mr. Kearns for the appointment to the board, and the interviews would take place later this week. So make a motion that we interview those that were just stated.
I will second that motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next up, we need to review and select questions for SRHD Board of Health applicant interviews. So, I believe, are those in here?
I have not received any specific questions from any board member.
Okay.
So as far as I understand it, we would be utilizing the same questions that we had for the last round, which I think Ann, you provided to everyone.
I don't
I
remember
don't
receiving
I
those.
believe we
No.
received
Those,
them.
those were not provided.
Oh, okay. So I don't have any specific questions
Okay.
from any board member.
Is there any way to pull those up?
Yeah, sorry. I thought we were gonna just go through ones that we use and then see if we wanted to
Yeah.
alter any today.
I can bring them up, as long as you want them public. They will be broadcast.
Probably don't
Yeah.
want that.
No. So now, can you walk us through what the process, because I believe even the law even states how we do this. We have to ask the same questions to every applicant, correct?
Correct.
And we're allowed to do follow-ups, but only if it's based on something they said, correct?
Correct.
We can't have one specific question for one candidate and a completely different one for another candidate.
Correct.
Okay. Huh. Which is unfortunate, because sometimes some questions aren't relevant, to, and certainly by category, not necessarily. Okay. Yeah.
Last time we had the questions, that actually was approved the day that we did the interview. So it could
Okay.
be, we could send those out today and then have it voted on prior to the interview starting.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Do we have to, we don't have to read them into the record before we make a motion, so they're still private from the applicants. Okay. So we can each receive them by email. If we have changes, email them to you? Or
They come to me.
to come to
If
you,
there's
if we
concerns
have
or
changes.
questions. Yep.
And then we'll have kind of a final printout Thursday morning. We will each read them, make a motion to adopt them, and then jump right into the interviews.
What time does our meeting start?
It's 9. But you
9.
wanted us here at 8:30?
The meeting starts at 8:30.
Oh.
8:30.
It starts at
And
8:30.
then the board members were expected to be here at 8:25.
Okay, I apologize. So you would like us here at 8:25?
Correct.
Well,
Okay.
but it's via Zoom, correct?
I'm sorry, yes, it is, in
Okay.
Teams. So on
That's
Teams.
Or Teams,
Sorry.
That's right.
That's right.
Oh, good. We don't have to worry about weather or anything.
Let's just
Sorry.
all make sure we're clear on what we're doing. Okay.
So we have 3.5 hours, and that would allow us some time for the interviews, and then are we going to do some discussion at the end, or does that happen later with the, because our role is to recommend,
We vote on one per category, and then that's transmitted to the Board
To
of
the Board
County
of County
Commissioners to
Commissioners, okay.
essentially take affirm
got it.
our recommendations. Okay, so just so we're clear, so it's still virtual, not in person. So Thursday, don't show up here. Zoom in from wherever's convenient for you. Okay, so you want us on no later than 8:25, and then we'll get going at 8:30. We'll hopefully just make a motion, adopt the questions, and head right into our first interview. Okay. Any concerns?
No, I guess, Michelle, if you receive any questions or concerns to the questions, you'll float,
I will
you know.
wrap them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what they were, the individual questions.
I think it was like 9 questions. That's all 8 or 9. That's all I remember.
And honestly, I would say if there's something on there that you don't think is relevant, strike it. We don't have to ask 9 questions.
Yeah.
So,
And I think too, what I remember from last time is just, it is, it may be easier to strike a question than add questions. Just being respectful to that these are people, that this is a public meeting. They're not used to this kind of scrutiny that we as elected officials are used to. So that, they're not used to having to be public. I don't want to say scrutiny, just having to be public with all of this. They were public with, their applications, all of that, that I just want to be respectful to people that I did hear last time. Some people felt very intimidated, all of that, weren't sure how they felt with everything being so public, so I just, want to be, we'd like to have people continue to apply for these positions in the future, so, because they bring a lot of benefit to us, and so I just want to make sure we're being respectful to them as well.
yep.
Just versus to last time, as I recall, we just went, different people asking questions, we just went over the same.
Yeah, I think we just, went in the circle, yeah.
Yeah, we
First
all
person
kept the
asked
same question.
Second, but yeah.
Yeah, similar
Correct.
to what we did when we were interviewing for the administrative officer,
Yep.
that we just,
Yeah. So
Pick
like
who
I'll
goes
ask
first.
the same questions each time to each, and you'll ask the same questions to each candidate, and so on.
and will Councilmember Cathcart be able to be on Zoom?
As far as I know. Haven't heard any different. It was just, he said Mondays are their tough day. That's the day where they meet, I guess, as a council all day, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
But no, he has not said anything about not attending Thursday, so I assume he'll be there.
Okay, great.
I was told that he would be
Okay.
attending both meetings on
Great.
Thursday.
Okay.
Okay.
And then also, we have 9 questions.
Okay.
That was asked last time. And then, looking at the schedule, we allotted about 25 minutes apiece for each interview.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, so is that gonna give us enough time?
Yeah, I was gonna suggest maybe keeping it to 20 and cutting down to maybe 7 questions max for 2 minutes, you know,
Yeah.
response.
I think
Or 2 to
with-
3 minutes, you know.
I mean, because, so essentially,
What?
If we did 25, yeah.
and that's if you
Yeah.
allocate 30 minutes for the 25 5-minute transition. We're gonna have to shrink these up,
I think so.
because I mean, it's essentially 4.5 hours of interview without us talking at the end, and so we're either gonna have to shrink it up or we're gonna have to cut the list down. I don't wanna cut the list down anymore, so I think we need to shrink up.
The questions?
So I think we need to see the questions. If you see something that's not relevant, or you don't think, or if, and again, I don't remember what the questions were from 2 years ago, but if there's a question that essentially is the same question that was asked in the list on their application, let's strike those. So like, I don't remember, but if one of the questions is, why do you want to be on the Board of Health? That's a question they already answered. Or what does the Board of Health do? That was a question that was in the application, so maybe strike those types of questions. Just
Yeah.
we'll look through them and see, make sure they're all different.
Since I have the questions here, would
Okay.
you like me to print them out and bring them right now? And then we could have a discussion right now? Board meeting?
What do you think? Or is that just something we want to do over the next couple of days?
If we could look at the questions and just identify by number ones that we
Okay.
could cross off, can we do that, Michelle? Okay. Then I'd say let's take a shot right
Okay.
now.
All right. Do we want to go at ease for a couple of minutes? Let
Yeah.
Ann do that?
Let's do it.
How long would you like, Ann?
About 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. It is 2:33, and we are going to go, well, we'll give you 7 minutes. We are going to go at ease until 2:40. So we are at ease.
Mr. Chair. We're not ready yet.
Okay, we have reestablished the meeting. It is 2:40. We did not extend from our being at ease. So we do have copies of the questions that we will be reviewing. But again, as stated earlier, we're going to try not to read these on the record because just to keep it fair for all of our applicants. So Commissioner Waldron?
Well, I was just going to say that number 7 on here might have already been covered with a form that applicants had to fill out
I think
with
you're
their
right.
application.
Yep.
I think everyone filled it out, but may not be necessary to cover.
I would agree with that. Commissioner CUNY?
Item number 7.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably not need. I mean, do you agree?
I think that there was a form that everyone filled out with
Right.
disclosing any
Yep.
potential.
We're getting head nods from
Yes.
from Ann as well. Okay.
On question 1, to your point, Commissioner Kearns, we probably
Yeah.
could just leave it with the first part and then not the second part, since that was already asked in the application.
Yeah.
That would cut down a little bit.
Do you agree, Commissioner CUNY?
Yeah, just a second. I just want to look at. So I guess.
And honestly, I mean, we may just need to be upfront with folks too and say, please try to keep your answers concise. So maybe say, we have X number of questions and we've got 15 minutes to do them. So please be brief, concise, to the point. I mean, we would just be upfront with what the situation is. Six was very specific to the times. Do you think that one's needed?
Well, and I was going to say 5 kind of alludes to differing, to that same, not exactly, but it refers to some degree to a similar question.
So, okay, so I'm just going to clarify. So, okay, question number 1, you didn't think we needed to because it's.
She was talking about the second
The
half.
second half of the question, just stick with the first.
It's a two-parter. Just ask the first part, but not the second part. What do you think?
I mean, we asked the first part.
Okay. Do you want to strike the whole first question, you think?
So I was.
I don't know if I'm not sure if our questions in the public application covered, I'm just going to say the role of the board member.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it really got that. So it might be interesting to hear that.
Right. Kind of the first piece, first half of that first question. It definitely was.
Was covered. You're
was covered.
correct.
So.
I'm open with, if we wanted to start with question number 3, it's kind of like a basic opening question, and then we could not do number 1 since most of it was covered in the application. I don't know, just a thought.
I think
Yeah,
number 3
'cause-
is definitely a good question. I
Right.
want to keep. I want to keep that question
Right.
for sure.
Well, and I think 2 actually identifies kind of what the second part of, the
I think you're right. Yep.
number 1. So I mean, I think
Mhm.
we could make that one question number 2 still, and just move question number 3 up to number 1.
Okay, and scratch 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll scratch 1. We'll move number 3 to the first position. And then, okay, so
We're gonna have
let's see
2.
what else.
I think question 4 is kind of tough. I remember last time that was a hard question for people that hadn't been
It is a difficult
on the
thing
board,
to ask, because honestly, you
unless you
don't-
really are.
How about we
kinda
just would
inside.
change it to 1? You know,
Mm.
1 current, 1 future. Just wondering, would that make it easier on people and shorter to
Instead of
answer?
3, what do you think? Actually, that would help with time, too, certainly.
But it's still kind of getting people to think about what's going on.
Do you agree with that?
Mhm.
Okay.
So just instead of 3, 7.
Five's an odd question, in my mind, but
It's a long question.
Yeah, it's
It's
long.
like, it's like trying to split it. What are we really trying to ask, and how
Yeah.
do we split that up? Because 6 kind of gets to some of that too.
yeah.
You
I
want,
think
maybe we could
replace,
reword that.
Yeah, and get to the same end with one question, combining 5 and 6, but I think we can reword it and really shorten it down. That's when you hit somebody with essentially a paragraph of a question with all of those parts.
Yes, they're never going to
then
remember how
It's
to
going to be
come
like, what?
back
Can
to
you
it.
repeat that question? So.
Well, maybe someone could take a stab at rewording it before Thursday morning.
I've got a good idea on how I would ask that question, so I actually before I leave today, actually I'll meet with Ann and I'll give her a run. I think we can condense that down and get the gist of it without so much without so many words. So.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move down to 8.
So 7 we were taking out, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 8.
Eight's-
8 I think is good, and
that's
that's
very
quick.
important.
That's a very
Yes.
quick answer for everybody. So I think we leave 8 in the way it's asked. That's great.
I'm not sure that we need to ask number 9.
I don't think we need 9
Yeah, that's what's-
anymore. I think we can scrap that. And then 10 is always a good one. Always a good one to ask.
Mhm.
So okay, so that'll leave us with 2, 3. We'll combine that. 4, 5, 6. So we're down to 6.
So
I think
we
that's
could-
good.
we're-
That seems much more realistic if it's
Yeah.
about 3
15.
minutes for each. That's even, and that's if they have questions. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're
Alright.
combining 5 and 6.
What was that?
We're combining 5
We will
and 6.
combine 5 and 6 into one. I'll talk with Ann before I leave. I think I've got, so you'll, when she emails, can you still email these out to us, kind of a cleaned up version? So it'll have mine. If you don't like it, I won't be offended. You can send back new language if you want, but I think I can get us where we want to be. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She'll send it to me, I'll send it.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this one?
Because we're going to have to keep it to like 15 minutes because
I
we've
think
got to
we
have a
should
little
shoot.
time in between
Yeah.
each.
Yeah. I think we should shoot for 15.
with 5 minutes in between.
And honestly, there's always the situations where some people go really fast, and we may not take 15. There's other people that
Right, but we can't get the next person.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Well,
got to
I mean, unless
make
they're
sure.
waiting in a waiting room or something, we could probably bring them on. Or can we? Or is
I
that
don't
an
know
issue?
how that works.
I don't think that's an issue if they're there.
Yeah, like if they're in a team's waiting room waiting to be promoted.
Yeah.
That is how we did it last time. They
Okay.
were in a waiting room and I
Great.
would just bring them in and take them out when they
Okay.
were done.
Okay.
But I think shooting for 15 and being upfront with them, with it. Hey, we have 6 questions, 15 minutes, so please try to be concise and straightforward with your answers. So just tell them the reality. We're pressed for time here, so we got a lot of people to interview. So
Perfect.
okay, all right. So we will adopt those as our first item on Thursday morning, correct?
Perfect, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So we'll adopt those Thursday morning before we start our first interview. Any concerns over that? Okay. I think we've done our work here today. Is there anything for the good of the order or anything anybody sees me missing? Any final clarifying questions? Dr. V, you got anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, if nobody else has anything, it is 2:50, and we have concluded our meeting. We are adjourned.